people. Speaking of it, what do you think about sex slavery? Muhammad himself had female slaves. Muhammad allowed the holding of female slaves and the engaging in sexual relationships with these slaves. The Quran itself authorizes people to have sex with their female slaves. What exactly do you think about that? What do you say about this?
In this video, we'll address a controversial claim often raised about Islam, the allegation of sex slavery. Critics argue that Islam permits the exploitation of female slaves and that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, endorsed such practices. But is this accusation based on an accurate understanding of history and Islamic teachings? Let's dive deep into the historical, cultural, and Quranic context to uncover the truth. To understand the Quran's verses and Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, actions, we must first examine the historical backdrop. Slavery was a global norm. Societies across the globe, including Roman, Persian, Greek, Indian, and Arabian civilizations, practiced slavery. Female captives were often subjected to horrific abuse, including rape, forced labor, and even infanticide. Pre-Islamic Arabia treated slaves as property with no rights, frequently abusing or killing them at will. Islam's revolutionary approach. Islam inherited this practice, but introduced regulations aimed at gradual eradication. For the first time, slaves were recognized as human beings with rights. The Quran encouraged the freeing of slaves, making it an act of virtue and atonement for sins. And what can make you know what is the difficult path? It is the freeing of a slave. Quran 90, 12-13. Islam provided slaves with avenues to gain freedom, contracts of manumission, and integration into society. The phrase refers to captives taken in war, a practice prevalent in the 7th century. Islam's treatment of these captives marked a stark departure from the norms of the time. Captives were treated with dignity. Unlike pre-Islamic practices, Islam forbade abusing or overburdening captives. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Your slaves are your brothers and sisters. Feed them with what you eat, clothe them with what you wear, and do not burden them with tasks beyond their capacity." Sahih Bukhari. Marriage and consent. Islam encouraged marrying female captives, providing them with full rights as wives. Captive women who bore children were automatically freed upon the owner's death, muwalad. Regulated relations. Sexual relations with captives were permitted only within strict ethical boundaries, including mutual consent. Rape or forced intimacy was unequivocally condemned, as evidenced by numerous ahadith. Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, actions consistently reflected Islam's mission to humanize and liberate slaves. 1. He freed slaves regularly. Bilal ibn Rabah, Zayd ibn Haritha, and countless others were emancipated and integrated into society as equals. 2. He set precedents for justice. During wars, captives were treated humanely. For instance, the captives of Badr were educated and fed well, often better than their captors. The Prophet prohibited separating captive families, emphasizing their humanity. 3. Transforming the institution. By granting rights to captives and promoting their freedom, Islam set the stage for the gradual abolition of slavery. Critics misrepresent Islamic teachings by cherry-picking verses or historical incidents. 1. Misconstruing the Quran. Verses mentioning right-hand possessions regulated existing practices, limiting exploitation, and paving the way for reform. The Quran's ultimate aim was liberation, not perpetuation, of slavery. 2. Double standards of critics. Critics often overlook the pervasive slavery in Christian and other societies until the 19th century. Islam's humane treatment of captives far outshone the practices of other civilizations. Islam's revolutionary stance on slavery sought to reform and abolish an entrenched institution. The Prophet's, peace be upon him, actions demonstrated compassion, justice, and a clear path toward emancipation, debunking any claims of endorsing sex slavery. By exploring the historical context and Islamic teachings, it becomes clear that the claim of sex slavery in Islam is based on misconceptions and selective interpretations. Islam's approach aimed to regulate and gradually eliminate the practices of an unjust system, prioritizing human dignity and compassion. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, led by example, encouraging the emancipation of slaves and establishing equality. If you found this explanation insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support our work in debunking misinformation. Let us know your thoughts or questions in the comments below. Your engagement helps us reach more people with the truth. Assalamu alaikum.